I have been in business for 6 years now, which is actually kind of crazy to say because I never thought I'd even be here. I wanted to, but didn't think it would actually happen. But it has been a journey. I am Michaela Babone, your 49-year-old homegirl, here to share the real, the raw, and the relatable moments of life with a little style sprinkled in and a little business sprinkled in here and there. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about business, but the business of style, maybe, since I'm a fashion designer. So, if you don't know, I am a mom, a wife, I'm a content creator, and I own this fashion business called Dressed in Joy, which has literally been a joy to run because I absolutely love designing clothes. I love dressing women in clothes that make them feel good and make them feel comfortable and confident and joyful. So, this is something that I've always dreamed about doing. And to be actually living in this space is kind of crazy for me. However, things have definitely changed since the early days of my business. In the early days, like this was 2020, 2021, and y'all know everybody was on their phones. We had everybody's attention. So many people were shopping at that point, and business was booming, okay? And to now look at the times where people aren't shopping as much, people are a little more discretionary with their funds. So the business isn't going as busy and, all the sales aren't popping like they were back then, but it's still something that I love to do. And I want to share with you some tips that I've learned along the way. And these are not things that I've read in books or that I've seen on YouTube. These are actually lived tips, lived experiences that I want to share with you about running a business, running a fashion business, or any business really, um, over the last 6 years. Tip one is that you cannot skip the unglamorous parts. You have to pack the orders. You have to build your own site. You have to take your own photos sometimes. These are all the unglamorous things that people don't think about when it comes to owning a business, running a business. Lots of email issues and fixing errors, maybe on your Shopify site or with production. There's so much to think about when it comes to all the unsexy, unglamorous things that you have to do when it comes to running a business. And they are absolutely mandatory that you know how to do them. And I say that because a lot of times you want to like hand all of this stuff off to somebody. But in the early days, it's great for you to know how to do it so that you can know if somebody's doing something right or wrong if you hand it off to them. I still do it all myself. I don't have any help. I want some help, but I don't have any help right now. So I'm doing it all myself still. And this is like the unseen work of running a business that nobody really knows is happening behind the scenes. And I really feel like it grounds you because this is the stuff that keeps you tethered to your business in a way that it's just not like, oh, I'm going to post on social media today about it. No, I'm going to post on social media. I'm going to check my analytics. I'm going to make sure that the listing is proper. I'm going to make sure I have photos on the site. There's so much else involved in this part of the business. Like I remember in the early days, when I was running this business out of my house, and I would just have boxes of clothes sitting in the kitchen. The kids and I and my husband, we have to walk around everything to get to the kitchen, walk around all these big boxes to get out of the house. I was packing orders before getting the kids up at 7 o'clock to take them to get them ready for school. I was staying up until 11, 12 o'clock to pack orders late at night so I didn't have to bother them with it. It's just a lot of unsexy work. And I still think I'm in the beginning. Like this is 6 years and I plan to be designing clothes for a long time. So this is still just the beginning for me and I'm still doing those things. Granted, I have an office now that I can work out of and then my clothes are here and I ship out of here, but I'm still doing it myself. And doing these tasks really takes a lot of diligence, a lot of resilience, because sometimes you may have just one order that you have to send out. Sometimes you may have 75 orders to send out. But the patience that it takes to know that you're not always going to have these high highs and these amazing times, but the patience and the resilience that it takes to like really keep going is the unglamorous side of this business, of running any business. Okay, tip number 2 is that your community is everything. I know a lot of people say that your family and your friends aren't going to be your target customer. They're not going to be the person that purchases your items. But honestly, my closest friends, my closest family, they are the people that support my business the most. Like my sister, she probably has 40 orders racked up for me because she loves my clothes so much. My best friend, same thing. My mom, I mean, she doesn't pay for anything, but she just texted me yesterday like, how much are those robes? I'd like to get one. And like, why are you asking how much, lady? Because you're not going to pay for it. But I just think it's so amazing that my family supports my business in this way. And it's not that they're like, oh, Michaela has a little business. Let me give her some money. But they really love my clothes. And that is a testament to the woman that I design for, because I design for the everyday woman. And I'm an everyday woman, they're an everyday woman. And so being able to see that in action in my everyday life is, it's just beyond for me. So when I speak about community, I want to say also that there's a difference between an audience and a community. So when I first started Just Enjoy, I want to say I had maybe like 12,000 followers on Instagram, I believe. This was like November 2019. And I had built this community, I like to call, because I shared a lot of style tips. I shared a lot of my personal style, and people were interested in that. And, you know, maybe they didn't find somebody who had like the colorful, print filled style that I have. So that built a community of people who liked that kind of style. So when I launched my own products, it was like, oh, I can dress like her by buying this design that she made. And so that community just started to grow and grow and grow with like-minded people. And so treating that community with intention really made the difference in how I nurtured the community as opposed to just always selling to them. So I wasn't always trying to say, hey, this is my thing, go buy this, but I would style it in different ways. I would provide other sorts of value so that people would be interested in me and then appreciate me for giving them valuable information. And they're like, oh, what else is she doing? And it's like, oh, she has clothes. Let me go see what her website is looking like. Let me go see what kind of clothes she sells or clothes she designs. And so I do a lot of, even now, I do a lot of storytelling, whether it's in the emails that I send or just on my personal page, because I really think there's value in sharing parts of your story, sharing parts of your life that people can connect to, because that then makes them more interested in buying sometimes. Another thing about community is that I get DMs sometimes from people that I don't know, that I've never met, who may see somebody at an airport wearing Dressed in Joy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saw somebody wearing your clothes. Or text message from my friend that they saw someone at an event wearing Dressed in Joy. And I tell you, those types of messages make my day, because it could be somebody that has never even purchased from me before, but they know my prints. They know my designs because I share them, because I talk about them, and because they really look like me. I think like the print version of Michaela is what my prints look like this one. And I really feel like because of this community that I've cultivated, my business was really built on relationships and not on algorithms. But I will say, because the algorithm was completely different back in 2020, maybe 2021, my content got out to more people and I was able to reach more people in that way. Now it's a little bit different, but I'm doing my best to kind of stay top of mind to let people know that we're still here, we're still working, I'm still telling stories, I'm still kind of letting you into my world, and that brings more people into the community. Tip number 3, I would say, is pivot when you need to. Pivoting is wisdom, it is not failure. So for me, I've had a couple of these moments where I pivoted up and then I've pivoted down. So initially, I started with athleisure, just hoodies, track jackets, joggers, yoga pants, those sorts of things. And they were selling really, really well. But I wanted so badly to move into trousers and dresses and resort wear and caftans and all these lovely things. And so when I was finally able to do that, that was a pivot for me. It was like a strong pivot because we're used to just easy joggers and hoodies. So we go from that to blouses and shirt dresses and pants and long sleeve tees. Um, and I felt a little nervous about moving into new categories, but it went so well. Like that first month, I want to say we sold about whew, 200 sets of blouses and pants at least. And it's been, great ever since. But it was definitely a nerve-wracking experience for me to like pivot into something brand new. And then once things were moving and booming and we moved into a retail space, I had to pivot out of that retail space just because the business wasn't doing as well as it was. We didn't have the foot traffic that I had hoped we'd have, and I had to downgrade. And I say we because sometimes my husband works with me, but I had to downgrade from the very large retail space in Brooklyn to back to my small office, which I love this office. It's wonderful, but I felt like a failure. I did feel like a failure having to leave this space that I had always wanted. It was so perfect and beautifully designed. I loved it so much. So having to leave that space and to go back into my office space felt like a failure. But the pivot of not having to think about my hours, not having to commit every single weekend to being there, not having that extra overhead of the rent and all the utilities and the internet and all the things that I had to pay in order to keep that space going, the smartest move I could have made was leaving there. So sometimes we have to think about pivots at not as failures, but as learning lessons, because that was definitely a lesson for me to not move so quickly just because things are looking great. Like I can slow down a little bit. And I think that's something that all business owners, new business owners especially, need to learn is to like slow down and let things play out to see how it's going before you start moving into something new. So tip number 4 would be that you don't have to run your business like everybody else. And I remember thinking that maybe I wanted to go into Nordstrom, maybe I wanted to go into Saks and all these fancy stores just for, I think, the prestige of it all. But I don't think that is where the majority of my customers shops. So I had to think about that, and like maybe if I wanted to reach a new demographic, maybe I can have like a luxury line or something like that and have that there at that store. But just because I see other brands doing it doesn't mean that that's what I need to do for my own brand. I think what so far has worked best for me is just being accessible and being in my own online store. It did work well in my retail space because people got to come in and try things on. So perhaps maybe in the future I can have like a smaller space that people can come in and try things on. But I definitely don't think I need to think about my business the way other people think about their fashion businesses, especially as I trust my own voice and I trust the experience that I have and the knowledge of my customer. I think that will definitely inform how I move forward and what I choose to do and not do compared to what other people do in their businesses. And I think ultimately, especially when it comes to the types of prints that I design and the pieces that I design, I know a lot of Black brands out there do very statement pieces. This is for vacation. This is for an event. And honestly, I'm not going on a lot of vacations. I'm not going to a lot of events, but I am going to the grocery store very often. I am dropping my kids off at school every single day. I'm going to school events. And so I need clothes for that. And that's what I design for. I don't have to look at, all these other brands that are successful in their, statement wear in terms of like the style and do that because it's successful for them. I do what's comfortable for me, what my customer needs, what I need, and that is things that I can wear every single day, that I can dress up or down. If I need to go to an event, maybe I can wear something of mine and just kind of dress it up a little bit, snazz it up a little bit. But I really need clothes for every day. And so that's how I decided to do things differently. Was I'm designing a regular long sleeve tee that you would wear during the fall and winter anyway. I'm designing a blouse that you would wear anyway. This is just in a color and in a print that maybe you wouldn't have chosen, or maybe you can't find anywhere else. And I think that's the differentiator between my business and other businesses. It's like, these are basic pieces, sure, but basic pieces in not so basic prints and colors. And also, being a small business, one thing that has really helped me is not having to take on a whole lot of inventory. I don't keep a whole lot of inventory here. I don't have a whole lot of clothes that maybe I'm not going to be able to sell, or that I have to deeply discount over and over again because I can't sell it. So doing that differently, especially from the big box stores, has been a huge advantage for me. My tip number 6 would be that I'm a multi-passionate person, and I think being so is definitely a strength. I am a content creator, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm a fashion designer. I think all of those things play well into each other. So as a content creator, I'm used to talking in front of the camera. I'm used to putting on clothes and showing my outfits. As a fashion designer, I'm used to thinking about women and their bodies and how comfortable we feel in things, and how, what we wear, how that makes us feel. As a mom, I'm used to thinking about, I've got to run the kids to school. I've got to run after this toddler. I've got to do this. And what am I going to feel most comfortable in doing all of those things? And so, I feel like everything just kind of lends itself to something else in my life. And a lot of people tell you, niche down, stay here, do this one thing. And I really think it's a strength to have a lot of passions and a lot of things that you're good at that you can apply to other parts of your business, other parts of your life. And one example I can give you of that is when I first started Just Enjoy and started content creation, they kind of really took off at the same time. I started creating content around 2017, but they really started to take off around the same time in 2019, 2020. And I started doing posing lessons because I was always sharing these great photos. And I just, as a dancer and as somebody who loved taking pictures, I just had a knack for posing. So I started doing these posing videos on Instagram. And when I started my business, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear some of my athleisure for these videos. And I'd wear the athleisure and I'd tag my business, and I wouldn't talk about the brand at all, but I'd tag the business, and I get so many questions about what I'm wearing. Where is it from? How can I get it? That people would then go to my business page, and that's how a lot of my business started, was doing these posing videos, wearing my Just Enjoy pieces, and people being interested in both the posing and the clothes. And from that, I was actually on the Today Show. From these posing videos, this posing series that I did, a producer from the Today Show reached out and asked me to be on the show as like a posing expert, helping Chanel Jones and Al Roker with how to pose for holiday photos, which is still to this day one of like the highlights that, you know, this all came full circle. I was doing these posing videos because I enjoyed it and I enjoyed sharing and helping people, wearing my clothes that I designed, which then brought more attention to my business and people were buying the clothes, to then being on the Today Show and wearing my brand new ready to wear collection of a blouse and pants on the Today Show. It just all came full circle, and all of those passions just kind of led into one another. Okay, and that puts us at tip number 7, which is storytelling is your superpower. And I will say this over and over again. Storytelling is so important in both your personal and your business. I'm 49 and I have a lot of stories to tell about my life up to teen years, my life in my 20s, moving to Hawaii, being a hula dancer, moving to New York by myself with no family. Like, there's so many stories that I can tell, and I enjoy telling them because maybe it's helping somebody in my age bracket or somebody younger, somebody older. And you never know who your stories are going to touch and how they're going to help somebody who may be in a similar situation or may eventually go through that situation, and you know, hearing your story can help them get through that. But the biggest thing is that stories help to build that community that we talked about earlier. And I really think that stories are great at building a connection with people, and that can be your marketing strategy. Another tip, I would say tip number 8, is to build for longevity and not for virality. And I say this with love, but going viral does not mean that you're going to have a successful business. It may increase your sales for a minute, but you also have to make sure you have systems in place to capitalize on that virality. Example, when I first decided to launch my coats, I took maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds to film a video of me in my coat. It was such a silly little video saying something like, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but toot toot, something like that, simple. And I'm thinking, oh, this will be cute. I'll get like 100 likes on this, maybe, you know, 20 likes, whatever. Girl, that video went viral. And I wasn't ready. I didn't have the coats on my site yet. I didn't have any sort of lead generation. There was no way for me to capitalize on this because it just happened so quickly. So I was not ready. So anytime you post a video, just make sure that you're ready, because you never know what's going to happen. That is my lesson from like just posting something thinking it was cute and funny to then going viral and not being prepared for that virality, and then not being able to capitalize on that. The coats did sell when I finally put them up, but it was just like, dang, had I been ready at the time, it would have been a completely different story. So it's definitely better to build your email list, to build your community, and to build customer loyalty, because those are the things that are going to keep your business going for longer than just like a quick little viral moment on TikTok or Instagram. It's really about choosing slow, sustainable growth as opposed to like the fast fame. And I really think longevity feels more fulfilling because you build something, like you're building on something. You got a nice foundation and you're building on something that can blossom and change and grow and evolve because you've grown slowly. When you build quickly and people only know you for this one thing, it's really hard to like pivot and change at that point, which I actually noticed too. Like I started doing different styles. I started doing dresses. I started doing cardigans and all these new things that were, I think, a little difficult for my customer because they were just used to the one lane. And so quickly splintering and going into different directions, I think felt a little jarring. So I probably needed to ease into that a little bit slower than I did. Right, my last tip, number 9, is that you deserve to take up space in your own business. And when I say that, I mean, you know what you love. Once you learn your customer, you know what your customers love, and you need to trust that and trust your own instincts, trust your taste, and trust your voice. because those are the things that are going to keep you moving forward. The minute you let other ideas come into your head that may not necessarily be what you want is the minute that things kind of go awry. And I'm not going to say don't ever take advice from anybody else, because I do take advice from my husband, I do take advice from other people, but most times when I trust myself is when things go the best for me and for the business. That's just how it is. Really, and I really feel like my business is most aligned when I am most myself. So when I'm trying not to look like somebody else, when I'm trying not to make my business look like somebody else's business, when I'm making sure that I'm not like uh, scrolling too much and looking at what other businesses are doing and trying to emulate what other businesses do, because at that point, whose business is it? Is it theirs or is it mine? Because I need to focus on me and what I think is best, trusting my own voice and what I think is best for my business. And I really think that you doing that is going to be the permission that gives other women to do the same. And I hope that, me sharing this and that me sharing my journey and talking about the things that I've learned over the last 6 years will help you to know that you can do the same thing, to know that you can live your dreams, to know that you can try something new, to know that you can stop doing something. Like I, left my retail store. I got out of that because it just wasn't great for my business. So, this is your permission to do something different and live your dream if you want. But really, I'm still learning. Again, this is only year 6 for me. So there's so much that I don't know. And I don't know that I don't know it because I haven't come across it yet. But I'm still learning every single day. And I will continue to share the things that I learn, continue to share the things that um, I'm pivoting away from or pivoting into, because I think it's really important that people know that you can change and you can do things differently. And I want to invite you to comment any lessons that you've learned as a business owner, any questions you have for me as a business owner, as a clothing designer. Maybe I can answer them in another video. But I really want to start a discussion about this because there aren't a lot of women over 40 starting businesses and talking about starting their businesses. So let's talk about it in the comments, and I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.